This is news from Gaza on July 16th, 6 a.m. Palestine time. The story of Mohammed. He had Down syndrome. Israeli soldiers unleashed their combat dog on him, killed him in front of his family in Gaza City. In Shujaiya, his family discovered his body this week as Israeli forces withdrew from the area. The story was reported today by Middle East Eye, and it reads, desperate screams as he struggled to free himself from a combat dog unleashed by Israeli soldiers. This is the last image Nabila Mohammad Bahar recalls of her son Mohammed, 24, who had Down syndrome. The Palestinian family were hiding in their home in eastern Gaza City's Shujaiya neighborhood when Israeli troops stormed it, Bahar told Middle East Eye. Dogs were sent in first, which attacked Mohammed and started mauling him. Soldiers then expelled everyone from the house except for Mohammed, who was taken to a separate room. Unable to see him, Bahar could only guess his fate from the screams as she was forced to leave the area at gunpoint. 7 agonizing days of waiting passed before Israeli troops finally withdrew from Shujaiya. The family rushed back to the apartment on Wednesday. They found Mohammed's decomposing body with worms eating his face. I cannot stop thinking of his screams and the image of him trying to free himself, said Bahar. Mohammed's Down syndrome was severe, she explained. His mental development, quote, was at the level of a baby, according to her. Quote, Mohammed was very innocent. He could not understand. He could not grasp anything. He was like a 1-year-old. I used to feed him and change his diaper. I cannot bear to think of what they did to him or how they left him to die like this. Israeli troops raided Shujaiya under the cover of heavy airstrikes on June 27th. For 2 weeks, they continuously bombed the densely populated area, stormed houses, and expelled tens of thousands of people. Many families were trapped in their homes, like Bahar's. The 71-year-old told Middle East Eye the family was besieged for a week before Israeli troops stormed it. There were 16 people inside, including Bahar's 2 sons, their wives, and children. The children hid in the bathtub to take cover from the heavy Israeli fire, but Mohammed, who was heavy and often refused to move, was kept in the safest corner of the living room the family could find. Before the recent displacement, we had been displaced at least 5 other times, and he wouldn't understand where we were going, she explained. Because he was obese, he would get tired and sit every few steps. When Israeli troops arrived, they unleashed their dog first, which immediately jumped on Mohammed. The dog bit his chest and then started biting and mauling his arm. Mohammed was screaming and trying to free himself as the blood poured, Bahar recalled. Mohammed could not speak or say any word, but out of horror, he was screaming at the dogs, sometimes saying, Walla, Walla, hey you, and sometimes, Khalas ya bibi, meaning enough my dear. I don't know how he had uttered these words. We had never heard him speak before, so he was nonverbal until this moment. When the soldiers entered, Bahar pleaded with them to take the dog off her son as she tried to explain that he was disabled. They eventually did, but took Mohammed to a separate room from everyone else. I told the soldier, let Mohammed come here, but he told me, no, we will treat him, said Bahar. When she heard him scream for water hours later, she asked the soldier to bring him some, but the soldier replied that there was a, quote, specific type of water for him. I could hear Mohammed humming in pain. Now and then they would open the door and look at him and say, Oskot, Arabic for stay silent, then close it again, Bahar said. The soldiers then gestured to each other. A doctor came with them, entered the room, and Mohammed was suddenly silent. Bahar suggests the doctor injected him with a sedative, but she could not see or hear him after that. I asked the soldier, where is Mohammed? He told me Mohammed is gone. I asked him, gone where? He answered, he is gone. There is no Mohammed. The family was then forced to leave the house and head to the west of Gaza City, leaving Mohammed behind. The family contacted the Red Cross daily for 7 days, pleading for Mohammed's release and medical treatment. The Red Cross kept telling him the Israeli army was not cooperating. Jibril, Mohammed's older brother, was the first to return to the house after Israeli troops pulled out earlier this week. When he entered the room where Mohammed was kept, he saw it covered with blood and fluid seeping from his body as it began to decompose. He was lying on his stomach. His body was decayed and worms had begun to eat his face, said 43-year-old Jibril. A tourniquet was put on his wounded left arm, probably to stop the bleeding, he added. Based on the state of his body, it was evident he had died several days earlier. Middle East Eye obtained footage of the body but could not publish it due to its extremely graphic nature. There are pictures of the blood stains seen in the room where Mohammed was kept. It's on my Telegram channel, as you know. The URL is on my profile, along with this article. Since the beginning of its ground invasion in Gaza, the Israeli army has systematically used combat dogs to search buildings, including hospitals. In many cases, the dogs were allowed to attack and maul civilians. Last month, Al Jazeera released leaked footage from a camera attached to an Israeli military dog, which showed it biting and dragging an elderly Palestinian woman from her home. With hospitals in Gaza not operating and roads destroyed by Israeli bombardment, Jibril said he was unable to call an ambulance or transport Mohammed's body to a cemetery. It was not even possible, this is important because of the death count in Gaza. It was not even possible to register his death, he said. I had to bury him near the house. There is a 1 meter space between our house and my uncle's. That's where I buried Mohammed.